In the small town of Maple Creek, where the summers smelled like fresh-cut grass and the winters turned the lake into a giant ice skating rink, lived a boy named Jake. Jake was the kind of kid who built robots from old toaster parts, finished his math homework before the teacher even handed it out, and could fix his dad's truck radio better than any mechanic in town. Everyone called him a genius. But Jake didn't feel like one, because no one ever heard him speak in class. Whenever his teacher, Mrs. Thompson, asked a question, Jake knew the answer before anyone else. His brain was fast, sharp, always ready. But his hand? It never moved. What if I get it wrong? What if everyone laughs? What if Mrs. Thompson thinks I'm dumb? So Jake stayed quiet, always. One afternoon, walking home past Miller's diner, he spotted old man Roy sitting outside with his usual black coffee. Roy had been the town's high school janitor for years before retiring, and he was famous for knowing everything about everyone. "You look like you got a storm cloud following you," Roy said, stirring his coffee. Jake sighed and slumped onto the bench beside him. "Everyone thinks I'm smart, but I'm too scared to prove it." Roy smirked. "Ah, another kid afraid of the chalkboard." Jake frowned. "How do you know?" Roy leaned back, crossing his arms. "Because I used to be one. But let me tell you about someone even greater." Jake listened. There was once a kid in Germany. A little odd, didn't talk much, struggled in school. His teachers thought he was slow. He hated memorizing stuff. And when he asked weird questions about time and space, people thought he was a fool. Jake's eyebrows furrowed. But that kid, he grew up to be one of the greatest minds in history. His name was Albert Einstein. Jake blinked. Einstein, the scientist. The same. But he made mistakes, a lot of them. He failed entrance exams. He got rejected for jobs, but he kept asking questions. That's what made him great. Not knowing all the answers, just being brave enough to try. Jake didn't say anything, but something in him shifted. The next day in class, Mrs. Thompson wrote a tricky math problem on the board. "Who wants to solve this?" she asked. Jake knew the answer. Sort of. His heart pounded. His hand twitched. Before he could stop himself, he raised it. Mrs. Thompson's eyebrows lifted. "Jake." His voice wobbled. "Is it 15? The class went silent. Mrs. Thompson checked the math, then shook her head. "Not quite. The correct answer is 18. A few kids snickered. Jake's ears burned. He looked down, wishing he could sink into his chair. But then Mrs. Thompson added, "But Jake's method, that's interesting. He made a small mistake, but actually, he found a shortcut I never taught you all before." She turned to the class and explained his method. It wasn't the right answer, but it made sense in a different way. When she finished, a kid in the back whispered, "That was actually cool." Another mumbled, "I didn't get it before, but now I do. Thanks, Jake." Jake looked up. No one laughed. No one thought he was dumb. In fact, they looked impressed. That afternoon, he ran straight to Miller's diner, out of breath. Roy took a slow sip of coffee. "Well," Jake grinned, "I got the answer wrong." Roy smirked. And it helped the whole class." Roy chuckled. "Einstein once said, 'A person who never made a mistake never tried anything new.'" Jake sat down, smiling. From that day on, he still feared the chalkboard, but a little less. He started answering questions. Sometimes he was right, sometimes he wasn't. But every time he learned. Years later, when Jake became a teacher at Maple Creek High, he wrote a small message in the corner of his chalkboard every morning. "Mistakes are proof you're trying." And when nervous students hesitated, he told them about Einstein, the kid who was once misunderstood, but dared to ask. Just like he once did. Mistakes are not failures. They are steps toward learning and growth. True intelligence isn't about always being right, but about having the courage to try, even when you might be wrong.